Hey there, kart fans, kart racers. Welcome back to another EKN Debrief here on the EKN Radio Network, episode number 16, mid-February. My name's Rob Howden. Pleased to have everyone with us. We've got David Cole here as well in the EKN studio as we get set to discuss the SuperKarts USA Winter Series finale. Things going really well with our EKN Radio Network. We're pleased that everybody's enjoying it. Got a lot of great people listening in, good feedback as well. A new approach, as we've said, is we're kind of getting into the groove here with the debrief. Last year through probably around 13 podcasts, we used it kind of just as our primary show to be able to discuss what happens in the sport, the news that was coming. The new stuff's going to come into a different podcast down the line. This debrief we're using to strictly look at the race we were just at, sit down, break down the race, talk about some of the cool stuff, discuss the racing that happened. And it's been going great. And we appreciate the feedback. We appreciate everybody listening in. This week's show was presented by CRG Nordam. CRG Nordam is the American headquarters and factory team for CRG Italy. Located in Conroe, Texas, CRG Nordam's warehouse and race shop is stocked with chassis and parts to support CRG dealers around the country. So when you're ready to accept nothing but the best, choose CRG. Again, the debrief for the SuperKarts USA Winter Series finale, rounds 3 and 4. We were at the Ocala Grand Prix in Florida. David Cole now joining me here on the debrief. Dave, you weren't able to be with me, but I do appreciate you tuning in on to the broadcast on Sunday. You essentially manned the Excel spreadsheet for the championship points for SuperKarts USA. You've obviously developed a pretty good reputation in certain ways, but you're definitely the karting math wizard when it comes to spreadsheets. That's a good thing.
Well, it helps to have a math degree, I guess, right?
Listen, you spent the family, you spent the money on the math degree. You become a karting journalist, the leading karting journalist in the sport. We might as well leverage that math degree every once in a while.
I can add 2 + 2, so it works out.
You can do more than that. All right.
But it was. It's always interesting, because the majority, if not all, of the EKN Live broadcasts that we do, I'm there, and so it's an odd feeling of not being there and listening online at home, which in a way it kind of helps me relax a little bit because I know what's going on and I can understand, not have to wait for the race report to get done, and I'm boom right there listening and knowing exactly what's going on. It's fun to do that, but I of course would have liked to have been trackside, especially in sunny Florida.
It was pretty nice. We had great weather at Homestead as well. A little bit of rain on the Friday at Homestead. We had, I think, maybe about 5 minutes where it sprinkled a little bit of rain on Friday again in Ocala. But otherwise, man, we're talking mid-February, early February, sunny, 65 degrees in the morning, 80, 82, 83 in the afternoon. Now, granted, it was humid. We rolled into the track, I want to say it was on Sunday, and it was just absolutely fog-covered, mist-covered, and the humidity was 100%. But that's Florida, and you're getting used to it. We did have a threat of rain throughout the weekend. There were some heavy clouds. At one point, real heavy, and it looked like it's going to happen for sure. But we never did need to go to wets, and I think everybody was pretty happy about that. We were able to simply just run the MGs all weekend long. The weather was perfect. Let's put it that way. It was perfect enough that, Dave, you'll laugh about this. So Ocala's got this great building right at start finish. Now you walk in, you turn right into timing and scoring. I'll give props that Lindsey Fox and Tom Thielen were doing timing and scoring, two of the best in the business. No issues whatsoever. You go right into the announcer's booth. Well, they're both separate rooms, close the doors. They both got air conditioning. Of course, Alicia and I are in our room. It's 80 degrees outside. We got the air conditioning hammered down to like 70. In the other room, it's totally off, and these Southerners are all bundled up. They've got their jackets on. Well, not jackets, but they had their sweaters on still. Let's just put it this way. They weren't enjoying the 75 like we were. It was cold to them at 65 in the morning. We were like, oh, this is fantastic. Shorts, T-shirts, perfect.
Yeah, Lindsay being a Florida resident, she's used to that coldness weather. Tom,
he's Texas.
Yeah, but I mean, he's always wearing shorts. So I think he's just naturally weird. I don't know.
He did it, and you're right. He had shorts
Yeah.
on. He had shorts on, exactly. I know that you get the chance to work with Tom every year at the Rock Island Grand Prix. They were a great addition this weekend to have, of course, Tom, who's been with Superkarts USA, especially in Florida, from the very Florida, the Florida Winter Tour days back in '99 when he first met Jim Murley and essentially became the timing and scoring guy for SCUSA. Many, many years of doing the Pro Moto Tour. He still does the Rock Island Grand Prix, has done that probably since he went there with Tom in '98 or '99. And then Lindsay, of course, works for IMSA. And, when I walked in the door and watched them, saw that they were both there, I went, wow, timing and scoring will be perfect this weekend. There'll be no issues whatsoever. And there wasn't. It was absolutely perfect. Numbers were strong again. And I think, anytime people talk about the state of the sport, there are obviously different levels. There's club, there's regional, there's national. I would consider this program to be essentially, a national spring training kind of deal. Numbers are good. There was 220 at Homestead, 190 here. We always expect a 10% drop off. It was actually 14% was the decrease from Homestead to Ocala, but still good numbers. I think a lot of the issues obviously with the stock Honda category. But numbers were good. 190 drivers. My goodness, that's 2 great days. If you do a 2-day total and you double that, it looks massive in terms of how some of the other organizations do their full entry numbers. But David, you and I've talked about it many, many times. We were wondering how the stock Honda program was kind of going to look at the Winter Series, knowing that obviously a vast majority of the SCUSA drivers are on the West Coast in stock Honda. SCUSA hoping, I think, probably to draw a couple guys from the F Series, maybe somebody else, guys from the Midwest, maybe pull more guys from Texas. That didn't happen. The DKC guys didn't haul over with the Sodi carts. They ran tag around X30 Senior at Homestead anyways. But, they got 5 guys from the F Series, really 5 of the best guys from the F Series Gear Up Challenge. Rory Vanderster, Colin Daly, Mike Rivera, Tyler Gilbo were there as well. So they had 4. I said 5. They actually had 4 guys from there. All in all, not bad because you look at the F Series and they had about 19 guys total that attended more than one race of that program. So they got 4 or 5 guys, but it just wasn't that great. A total of what? Not even, I want to say 17 or 18 guys in the stock Honda category for Ocala. Obviously work to do on that particular program.
Well, I think a lot of it, again, and like we talked about at the last show after Homestead, it's the uncertainty of what's the future. A lot of guys are still just kind of hanging off, waiting to see what's going to happen with shifter kart racing as far as Superkarts USA is concerned. It was expected, again, that the new engine was going to be here and it might have been made its debut at the Florida program just in Florida. So I think, some guys weren't really planning on being down here with the stock Honda. So I think, and again, maybe a lot of people are just waiting for the Pro Tour because, again, the Pro Tour, 3 events, and you add the Super Nets, it's 4 big major events that you gotta schedule for. And sometimes people just have good budgets. Sometimes people have lower budgets. So it could be a budgeting thing. It could just be the engine selection. There's a number of different factors into why the numbers weren't as big as what we thought they were going to be.
Yeah, you and I have had discussions with lots of team owners who have said that at one point when the Rotax program was running 2 weekends in January, 2 weekends in February, 2 weekends in March, that a lot of their customers were blowing through most of their budget in the winter. You hadn't even got to the main season yet, and they were already blowing through it. And I think I know for sure that was one of the reasons in talking to Tom Kutcher that they didn't want to go to 4 races, the 3 weekends, knowing that they were going to be going to the Winter Nationals in March. What do? You come back in late March for another winter race? No, just do the 2 weekends, get it done. And I think if you look at the contrast between stock Honda and Miami, obviously there's a lot of people that want to run the Winter Series because 17 in micro, 41 drivers in mini, 46 in junior, 34 in senior, and 14 in masters. Those are great numbers. And I think you see the people that have IME power plants want to run in the winter, and that's great. So, obviously the California Pro Kart Challenge got kicked off on the first weekend of February as well. They'll skip March and they'll be back in the first week of April. Well, there you have it, right? There's your West Coasters getting started really only 3 weeks after they started in Florida. So you're not going to see a ton of guys coming from California because they want to race, because they're already racing at Buttonwillow the first weekend of April. Bottom line is, I think a really solid overall launch for the SCUSA Winter Series. Good numbers, yes. The shifter car program, with its uncertainty, as you mentioned, David, I don't say concerning, but it's definitely something they have to work on. They know they have a new motor that they've been testing like crazy. They feel very close to that. They're happy with the way that motor is. In talking to everyone at SCUSA, Lynn Haddock being one, the concept just to get it out there this year, lock it down, get the top S1 guys driving it to find out what it's going to look like when the big dogs beat on it for a while and tune on it for a while. And I wouldn't be surprised to see the new IAME 175cc engine kind of debut maybe in S1 in Florida. Will they push it up to Supernats? I don't know, depending on how many guys they get on it, playing around with it, they may. But otherwise, I think you'll see that motor debut in S1 in Florida next year. David, cool thing, and I loved it. I love the contrast between the 2-cycle and the 4-cycle, the screaming IAMEs and that's exhaust note of the Hondas. And then you can hear them thundering off the pit lane when the LO206 guys come out. You know what I mean? And good numbers. Another solid double-digit turnout. 21 drivers, 22 I think total in the LO206 program. Great split of chassis. We have a number of different chassis: VLR, Burrell, MGM. We had Tony karts and TB karts added to the mix in Masters. The 206. You and I are karting addicts. We like almost any opportunity. Road race, dirt, sprint, whatever it may be. 2-cycle, 4-cycle. We love the 4-cycle guys, and they put a flipping fantastic show on at Ocala. That track really is made for 206 racing.
Yeah, it's the short confines of it definitely help for the Briggs engine to kind of shine there with the tight packs and different opportunities to pass, real quick opportunities, because it's a lot of back and forth in the far section instead of the long straightaway and the sweeping corner. But yeah, I mean, it's good to see that there were a number of different brands within the Briggs categories. I mean, CRG was also involved in it. So, I mean, you're looking at 5, 6, 7 different chassis brands and 21 drivers or 22 drivers. It's a pretty good variety.
Yeah, great numbers. 13 in senior, 9 in masters. The racing was exciting. When we come back after this break, David and I'll break down a little bit of some of the chassis that were there, and we'll talk a bit about that, because it's interesting that with this cool mix of kind of European, Italian chassis and the American guys coming in there and doing really well. I think that's one of the interesting things about 206. It's that level playing field, and there's a lot of guys with who have developed really good chassis and that are stepping up. Otherwise, we're going to go to our first break here on the EKN Debrief, episode number 16. Dave Cole and I breaking down the finale of the SuperKarts USA Winter Series. Stick with us. We got more to come after these brief messages. If you want to race against the best, to truly push yourself, to accelerate your development, you must take on the challenge that is the SuperKarts USA Pro Tour. For the last 8 years, the SCUSA Pro Tour has developed into the largest and most competitive national series in the country. With a pure class structure of IAME and stock Honda racing, nothing else even comes close. The venues are top-notch, hitting the best tracks in the country: NOLA Motorsports Park, the Sim Raceway Performance Karting Center, and Newcastle Motorsports Park. The second annual Winter Nationals kicks off the 2018 edition of the Pro Tour on March 2nd, 3rd, and 4th in New Orleans. It's kart racing in the Big Easy, tremendous competition, a world-class track, and Nolan's food and hospitality. Round 2 takes teams to wine country in Sonoma on May 4th, 5th, and 6th for the 8th running of the Spring Nationals at one of the most popular layouts in the United States. And then the championships will be decided at the mile-long crown jewel of the Midwest, Newcastle, on August 10th, 11th, and 12th. The Summer Nationals will likely be the biggest race in the country this year, other than the Super Nationals, and the number 1 plates and tickets to the IAME International Final in France will be up for grabs. The SCUSA Pro Tour, the longest-running, most competitive national series in the history of American karting. Challenge yourself. Experience it. No race will ever seem as daunting. For more information, head to superkartsusa.com/Pro Tour.
Hello, karting fans. This is Gabby Chavez, and you're locked into the EKN Radio Network.
Rob Howden and David Cole back here on the EKN Radio Network for our 16th episode of the EKN Debrief. Dave, we're working our way up there. 16. We did 13 podcasts last year. We've got like 4 or 5 already booked out here. January, February. I'm pushing for 60. That's what I want this year. At least 60 podcasts.
Well, we mapped out the EKN tour this year, and it's 27 events, so we're going to have 27 debriefs. So there's 27 podcasts right there.
Well, and if we do the job right, we'll have 20 or so happy hours too. So we're good to go.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So we're 2/3 of the way there. So I think for sure 60 is a good number to hit. I think for the season. I mean, that's at least one podcast a week. So I think like 60 is a good number.
We'll probably get more than that, but we're having fun with this, and the feedback has been great. And I'll say this right now: if you're listening to us on the EKN Radio Network, David's post when he does the schedule on the network, you can see you're going to get 2, 3, 4 opportunities a day to listen. Number of days down the line, it's going to go to the podcast. You'll be able to find it on the website under the media tab under podcast. It's going to be on iTunes, so make sure you go to iTunes and subscribe to the EKN Radio Network. Great way to get the content. You're rolling down the road in the morning, going to work or coming home, click it on. It's perfect. But we're having a lot of fun doing it. We love to have the feedback. Of course, when we post it up on Facebook, make sure you hop on there. Just give us a couple of comments. If there's a topic you want us to talk about, let's hear it. If there's somebody you think we need to interview, a father-son team, a mother-daughter team, you name it, let us know. That way we can find it out and we'll jump on it. Dave, let's move into the Paddock Pass now. The Paddock Pass this week brought to you by K1 Race Gear. And I want to kind of spin off of what we said earlier when we wrapped things up from the overview. Number of different chassis. And I think I'll tell you, let's put it this way. You know that the guys on the CRGs, the Tony Karts, the Burrells, they've been long time, at least from where I'm from, they've been long time stalwarts in the program, in the four-cycle program. Up in Ontario, we battled against the Burrells for years with Enzo Chioviti and the whole crew up there. We see the VLR has come in big, the chassis that RLV is bringing in. It's obviously a quality piece, man. The thing is an absolute hot rod. But I love the fact that Paul Rice and the crew from MGM came in, got his new Espionage chassis, and, dude, they were fast. Zach Linsell was fast. Alexander Searle was fast. They won Master with Joey Miller. So the great thing is these chassis are right in there battling. It's that lower horsepower. I don't know, just the designs that they've come up with. The domestic chassis are strong. And I think anywhere you go, it's so cool to see so many different chassis, whether it's Margay, whether it's Coyote, whether it's MGM. It's good to see these guys step up. I love it.
Well, the main idea with the Briggs package is that it focuses it emphasizes the driver and the chassis. It's getting both to work together as one. They become one. So it's, some chassis work for some people, other chassis work better for other people. You got to find that right combination, and because you put me or you into a chassis, it's going to take us some time to get it to understand it. You throw a Joey Wimsett or a Ryan Norberg, and you throw them in any cart and they'll be fast. So it's just finding that right combination. And so the Briggs package, with the engine being so low of a horsepower, that it really does emphasize the driver and the chassis. And if you can get both to work well, obviously it shows success.
Cool thing about Ocala, and we'll spin off of this right into the track itself. And we can just do that as well. We mentioned the tight confines of Ocala. It's not a long racetrack. We're talking 38 to 42 second laps, depending on the category. There's a couple of big flowing corners where, when you talk about chassis, you got to get that car to take a set. You don't want it to bind up. You got to keep it rolling through the final corner, the big carousel. You got a couple of hairpins in there as well. It really does stress the chassis, but it's not an overly fast racetrack. And I think that plays to the 206 category as well. But just a really tough track. You in our note, when we were talking about it in our notes, you referred to it as the Bristol of karting, which I think is is cool. You go to a track like Newcastle, wide open, it's these huge long straightaways. It's, a minute long, a minute and a minute and 5, minute and 10-second laps. Then you come here in just 40 seconds and it's Bristol, dude. You put your elbows up and you work hard and see what you can do, right?
Well, any of the Pro Tour tracks that we go to are again, over 40 seconds long, or almost over a minute long, even for Newcastle, NOLA. Sonoma's a longer circuit, even though it's probably 0.8 of a mile. It doesn't seem that much longer, but in all reality, it really is because of the number of turns that they have compared to Ocala. Ocala's basically got, I think it was 8 turns. And so there's not a lot of room for error, for one, so it helps close up the field a little bit more there. You're throwing 40 karts, minis and juniors and seniors out there. You're going to get some contact. You're going to get some rubbing. You're going to get some, especially with the back and forth, like you said, with the hairpins and in the back part of the section where it's left, right, left. You get the back and forth action going, and you got 20 guys all going for the same piece of real estate. Contact's going to happen. There's nothing that's going to stop it, especially with that many people out on the racetrack. It's just going to happen.
Well, we did have a bunch of red flags. Not a bunch. Let's say 3 or 4 red flags. And you're right. A couple of them were just absolute fluke incidents. A couple were some over-aggressive racing. But nonetheless, awesome racing, great racetrack. I love going to Ocala, and it was a lot of fun. Even with the shorter lap times, it doesn't matter. The racing was still great. We didn't see guys getting lapped left and right. So the level of competition was high as well. One of the big things, David, as we continue with the Paddock Pass here is what a solid prize package. If you were going racing there and if you finished in the top 3 or 4, you're in great shape. They were giving out tickets to the Miami International Final. And the neat thing was, if you won, you don't have to take that ticket. There was also, they were giving tire and entry packages for the Supernats, tire and entry package for the whole Pro Tour, tire and entry packages for the remaining rounds of the California Pro Kart Challenge. There were lots of different things that were up for grabs for those finishing in the top 3 or top 4. So prize package was big. They were really rolling out the red carpet in terms of trying to draw people in. And if you were able to win, man, it was lucrative. No doubt about that. Now, one thing about the Paddock Pass, and we'll roll into it with the race report first, but let's touch on this before we go to the next break. Wow. How about Kart Republic? They obviously made their debut at the Supernats in November, David. Strong with both Lorenzo Travisnuto and Danny Carroll. Travisnuto, for all intents and purposes, won the main event in X30 Senior, got that penalty, 3 spots that knocked him down to 4th for jumping the start. But he comes back and does I think he finished 6th in the opening round at Homestead, wins round number 2, wins round number 3 at Ocala, and then finishes 4th on Sunday. Well, Brandon Jarsakrak, who's making his debut on a Kart Republic, ends up winning on Sunday. Talk about a chassis that has really kind of taken the American karting scene by storm, at least at the national level, which is what's racing right now. A lot of eyes on the Kart Republic program.
Well, think about it this way. You essentially have 4 wins and 5 races for an X30 Senior for that chassis. If you count the Supernats, yeah, and then the 3 wins they have at the Florida the Winter Series. It's a solid debut. There's no doubt about it. But it goes back to the pedigree of that chassis brand. I mean, that's where it all begins.
Yeah, Dino Chiesa knows his stuff. There's no doubt about that. And it'll be interesting to see what kind of ripple action this has. This is an industry that likes to get a hold of equipment that's working. They've definitely found something with the chassis because it is strong right out of the box. The design is good, whatever the entire package, whether it's the way the chassis is designed. Of course, they use the Jekko seat as well. That could maybe play a role in the chassis potentially being designed around the flex of the seat and the performance of the seat. That will be interesting. We're going to learn more about it over the next coming weeks and months. But again, the arrival of Kart Republic, something that we wanted to drop here into the Paddock Pass because it is definitely apparent and quite impressive. Another break in the action. We'll be back. It's time to start looking over the race reports. Let's talk about who was quick, who was able to win some races as we continue with our EKN Debrief as we break down the final round of the SuperKarts USA Winter Series. Like most everything else, karting has always been big in Texas. But these days, it's just getting better and better. Top quality facilities and tracks, dedicated kart shops, and a pure SuperKarts USA Regional Series with incredible year-end prizes. That's right, it's the Texas Pro Kart Challenge. After making the switch to the pure SCUSA program last year, with a focused class structure that offers stock Honda and Miami categories, the Texas Pro Kart Challenge is primed for their biggest season ever. It's 4 race weekends designed to limit time away from school and work at the finest tracks in the state of Texas: Speed Sports, Denton, Amarillo, and Dallas. The series is dedicated to offering the best program possible, with a national level officiating and technical staff, top quality facilities, exciting prizes, and full e-karting news trackside live coverage with play-by-play by me, Rob Howden. Join us at the new Speed Sports Racing Park in Houston for our opener on March 24th and 25th. We're going night racing on June 7th, 8th, and 9th at the iconic Denton facility. It's racing under the lights. Experience the jewel of West Texas, the Amarillo Kart Circuit, on July 20, 21, 22. And then to cap it all off, we head to the Dallas Karting Complex on September 22nd and 23rd at the track that has hosted both the SCUSA Summer Nationals and the Rotax Grand Nationals. You do not want to miss it. It's the best racing in Texas, so come challenge yourself and push it to the next level. For more information, visit TexasProKartChallenge.com.
Hello, karting fans. This is IndyCar driver Zach Veach, and you're locked into the EKN Radio Network.
Welcome back, EKN listeners. Rob Howden alongside David Cole, episode number 16 of the Debrief. SuperKarts USA Winter Series on the hot seat here as we break it down what happened at the final round, rounds 3 and 4 at Ocala Grand Prix. David, before the break, we mentioned how great Kart Republic's been doing. As you said, essentially winning 4 of the last 5 races for X30 Senior on a top level. They won both here at Ocala. Travis Anuto winning on Saturday and then grabbing a 4th place finish on Sunday to officially win the championship. He essentially had it locked in after the win on Saturday. He was going to be able to drop Sunday regardless. Brady Jarczyk comes out, was getting real comfortable with the car on Saturday, and then was a monster on Sunday. Was able to win. I'll give Ryan Norberg some props because Ryan chased him down on Sunday afternoon, putting fast lap after fast lap. I think Ryan's fast lap on his Burrell Art was the final circuit of the race as he closed right in on the rear bumper of Jarczyk. But, you got to give props. Travis Anuto ends up getting the win. Norberg's still the top contender as their national number 1 plate holder, P3 in the standings. And, a great weekend as well for Callum Bradshaw for CRG Nordan as he's the vice champion. 35 guys, next 30 senior, still unbelievably stout up front.
Now I know we had some issues at Homestead with some over aggressive driving throughout the weekend there in X30 Senior. What was the action like for this category in Ocala with the tighter confines? Well,
okay, that you just served a nice soft one up the middle of the plate, Dave.
Of course,
it was interesting. If anybody listened to the broadcast, Saturday was a block fest. There was a lot of guys that were, namely Ryan Norberg. The car wasn't perfect for Ryan. There's no doubt about that. He was awesome on Sunday. Didn't need to bother with running down the bottom line, but he led. And then was running, coming down the front straight, it was immediately going to the inside of the racetrack to keep that tight line through turn 1. It tightens up, and it's hard for anybody to pass. And he did the same thing for the hairpins, ran the inside of the hairpins, and of course, that just stacked everybody up behind him, and that I think kind of led to some of the over-aggressive racing that we had. I'll give Jarczyk the props. He probably could have sent Norberg early because I think it was probably 4 or 5 or 6 laps where Ryan would just drive to the bottom and really it was the block move. And I think anybody will tell you if you block for too many laps, you're probably going to get shuffled. But Jarczyk chilled out. What happened then was Matias Ramirez was starting to get a little bit aggressive, a little anxious. He made a pretty aggressive move, tried to get 2 guys going into the sweeping turn 8, the final corner on the racetrack, got into the side and climbed over top of Jarczyk, and that ended his day. So there was some pretty aggressive racing. I think the fact that the track's tighter and you're able to run that bottom line. You're able to run the bottom line to turn number one. And instead of it being that sweeper that goes all the way over to the far part of the track, they cut back for the sweep. I called it the bus stop. They cut back for essentially what is a turn 2 to the right, then back to turn 3. And David, if you block the inside, you just had to be able to hold it. Now, you stacked everybody up because you had no exit speed coming out of 1 over to 2, but nobody was able to get by you. And that's just, if you're going to allow that kind of driving down the inside of the track, you're going to know that you're going to get some contact because there's just no way to get by, especially if you block over the hairpin, then block into the tree turn number 7. It's a track that allows blocking, and you'll probably win every race unless someone moves you. And an X30 senior, you're going to get moved.
So it's essentially like what we see right now with the pushback bumper in Europe, especially like what we saw at the grand finals for the Rotax, where guys would run the narrow, not necessarily defensive line, but a lot of guys were going into corners, driving the narrow line where they would already be towards the inside of the corner before you make your normal turn in point. So really, there's lots of talk about pushback bumpers throughout the paddock and stuff like that. So that's why I was interested to see what your take was, especially on X30, because of what we saw in Homestead.
And that's the thing that normally people don't talk about. One of the things about not having the pushback bumper is you are allowed to kind of put some of the race and the way it's being handled and the way drivers drive in the hands of the actual competitors. A guy can say, "Hey, listen, if you block me, I'm going to push off the racetrack in turn 5 or on the 5th lap," because unless the officials say, "No, that's a big block, we don't like that," even though you're still allowed to have one move. If the track lends itself to it, well, then if you got the pushback bumper, the guy really can't take it into his own hands and make that happen. So you could drive around the inside. That said, I would not be surprised with the way the racing was again this weekend that Scusi just says enough's enough and go pushback bumper and people have to deal with it. That really, really wouldn't surprise me because they've been doing the best they can, I think, in terms of trying to figure it all out. But I don't know, David. I hear what you're saying. You run that little bit more defensive line, and if we're running the pushback bumper, the guy behind you is probably not going to get into you.
Then it becomes a qualifying battle. Yeah. Whoever qualifies the best is going to probably end up being on the podium.
And that works for a track like Ocala, where you could probably run the inside line all the way around. You can't do that at Newcastle. You can't run the inside line all the way around at NOLA or Sonoma. Right. So it may be, as you said, maybe it's just location specific. The fact that certain tracks you can do that, some you can't. Let's move to X30 Master as we go through our race reports. Our race reports today brought to you by Briggs & Stratton. X30 Master, what a field. 4 of the top 5 drivers from the Pro Tour last year, including National 1 and National 2, Derek Wang and Laurent Toumardan. But anytime Renato David's in the field with Ursulon Racing, he's a contender. And David, he ends up winning the title thanks to a Saturday victory. But, I'll tell you about Saturday. I want to say 6 or 7 laps, maybe 7 laps from the end of the race, he knocks down, I think it was a 38.6. Right? He lays his smoking lap down, 38.6, 39. It was a 6. I'm like, wow, that's pretty solid. Laying a good lap down, goes purple. And then David, for the next 7 consecutive laps, while everybody's trying to chase him down, well, it was actually Derek Wang trying to chase him down, he went 6, 6, 6. He did 7 consecutive 6s. And it was just, it's one of those things where here's this kart at the very end of the day, after practice, after let's say on the same tires, after qualifying, after the pre-final, he bangs out the race's fastest laps for 7, 8 straight laps. For me, an impressive performance.
Well, being a former Super Nationals winner, it definitely shows that he knows how to beat some of the best in the world, because we know the Super Nats is bringing a lot of the top Masters drivers from around the world to Vegas every year. And the year he won it was no exception. And so him being a dual threat, because he's also a great driver in the shifter ranks as well. This program, he focused on just the X30 Master category. Certainly a solid driver. And I think if he commits himself to the full Pro Tour, I think he's a really good top contender, the odds favorite to dethrone Derek Wang.
Yeah, I think you look at the guys that are stepping things up that could be really good on the Pro Tour. Wang's going to be fast again. Mardan struggled a bit this particular weekend. I think Jonathan Silva's starting to step up his program as well. He was, I think, fifth last year in the points, fourth or fifth. I'll tell you who really impressed me, Dave, on the weekend. Now, granted, he's a home track driver, but Scott Roberts, I think he probably would have been in there to challenge David on Saturday, but he and Derek Wang got together a little bit. In fact, Derek Wang finishing in the second position on track, but he did get a penalty for avoidable contact, having gotten into Scott over in, again, the sweeper, turn number 9, that dropped Scott to the tail of the field. He stormed his way back up as far as he could, but obviously wasn't going to be in the hunt. He came back on Sunday, though, and was able to win, and it was a dominant win. He stepped up and won the thing. David was quick again. Wang was right there. Silva was right there. And I'll give Jonathan Silva big props. Really good run to the podium on Saturday, and on Sunday, it was hilarious. I want to say he was running 4th. I think he was running 4th. And at one point, 2 seconds behind Derek Wang. And so here's a guy who's trying to step it up. Obviously Derek Wang, national number 1. If you're going to, gauge yourself against anybody, you do it against Wang. And Jonathan, dude, he was up on the wheel trying to, because he wanted another podium. But he was faster than Wang almost every lap, but by 0.04 of a second, or maybe a tenth. So he just kept chipping away. Oh, and it's a long race. I think it was a 25 lap race or something like that. And he just kept chipping away. And at the end came up a couple tenths of a second short. But it was one of those things where, man, he just needed a couple more laps. But, I'm trying to call this race like he's closing up. And it was always, he's quicker by 0.06 of a second.
Well, again, as we always say, it's a lot easier to catch someone than it is to pass someone. So once you get there, you can't, especially at that point of the day, it's hard to find that extra tenth or 2 in order to get by somebody, or even just waiting for a mistake. And that's one thing you don't see from Wang or Renato or especially Roberts on Sunday. There was nobody was making a mistake. And so Silva couldn't capitalize on that.
And you mentioned in our notes, David, pretty interesting. Derek Wang, first time he didn't win a championship in a couple of years in SCUSA competition. So
yeah, it's just a little
back to back.
Yeah, just a little stat there for you, because I mean, he has, and then that's the thing. Like, he has not been like the dominant driver throughout the last 2-3 years in SCUSA competition, but he's always been right there and able to come away with the championship both years. So I just see this year becoming even a tighter fight, because if going back to all the same tracks we've been to with all the same drivers coming back, everybody has all their notes now, and I think it's just going to be an epic battle throughout the year next 30 Master.
Yeah, Masters is so much fun to watch. And you're right, David. Wang's consistency is what does it. He usually bags 1 or 2 wins a year, 1 win a year, but everything else is so consistent. And another great run for him as well here at the Winter Series. X30 Junior. That racing was pretty tough, pretty rough there. Tough and rough, let's put it that way. We've talked about the fact that how the Ocala track a little smaller, the hairpins, just the way it's kind of lined up. It was pretty rough. There was the guys up front are getting real aggressive. They're driving with their body work. There's no doubt about that. They're making some pretty aggressive moves. When they're getting past, they're doing the jink thing where they're kind of cutting back in to try to stop it. And it's interesting. It's not for us to control. It's just for us to kind of discuss. And I think that the pushback bumper probably helped the juniors out a ton. Overall, opening race, Thomas Naveau for PSL Karting on the Burrell ends up winning the race, but gets penalized for a start infraction. That passes the win over to Sebastian Montoya. Obviously big for him to try to win this championship. There was contact with Gonzalez as well midway through. He ends up going off the racetrack in turn number 9. That really hurt his title hopes. I think he really had an opportunity to take a run at Montoya for the title. Wasn't able to do it. Sebastian ends up getting the championship with 3 podiums in 4 races. But on Sunday, it was the Parolin driver, Mateus Morgado, coming through to the win, David. And we didn't, talking about chassis-wise, we talked a bit about about Kart Republic being strong and coming out of the box, but how about Parolin as well? Coming out of the box strong at Homestead with Formal in the shifter. They got a couple really good kids, a couple of podiums in the Micro Swift category with Caleb Gaffera and Ethan Ayers. They got some badasses in this junior category as well. Mateus Morgado, very strong on the Parolin.
Yeah, that's another brand that's been slowly gaining speed throughout the years, and obviously it has a reputation already as being one of the leading chassis manufacturers in producing a lot of the number of different brands that are already out there and doing their own. It was part of the Academy Trophy, so it's definitely has been developed a lot over the last few years. It's just now gaining some notoriety here in the United States. Jim Russell Jr. has been pushing that brand for a number of years here. Obviously in the cadet categories, we've seen it. But now it's with Ariel down in Florida, it's starting to move out into the junior and the senior and the shifter categories.
Yeah, with obviously Russell Karting shutting down and Jim kind of coming back with his own team operation, he will be the Parolin importer. You got Ariel Castro, as you said, with the AM Racing program. You get a couple big teams like that and in the right areas, and I think the Parolin program is going to continue to grow, continue to find some success. They were very impressive down in Ocala. Let's cap off our first run through the race report here, brought to you by Briggs & Stratton with Stock Honda. David, we talked about the issues with the numbers, but let's just look at what happened on the racetrack. Musgrave, the only driver there in S1, so he rolls in and wins essentially a $3,000 entry and tire package to run the SCUSA Pro Tour as the champion. S2 was obviously the highlight. We had a good number of drivers in S2 and some really good ones as well. Guys that were top of S2 last year, who I think we're going to see move into S1. It really was the battle between Colin Daly and Rory Vanderstoer in the S2 category. Vanderstoer ends up with the championship after a dominant run. Actually beat Musgrave as well on Sunday. I know Vanderstoer is going to S1. I know that Daly was considering going to S1. We may find ourselves with a really solid group of S1 drivers at the Pro Tour. I'm excited about that. Luke Bola and Ben Schermerhorn splitting the S4 main events. The title went to the number 3 SCUSA plate holder, Schermerhorn. Rod Clenard, perfect at Ocala, wins both races on Saturday over Victor Jimenez. And on Sunday, actually winning over Mike Rivera. Farshad Bagheri was quick as well. I think he was on the podium both days on the TB kart. But Dave, I went back. He was running second all race on Sunday. And, they come across the line, and I'm, where's Farshad? And Mike comes across Rivera, and the CKR ends up in second. I went to talk to Farshad afterward, and he said, I guess an S2 guy in front of him was spilling fuel out all over the place and caught him off guard, and he just did the full lock on the wheel and almost got into the barriers. So he was happy with third and happy with the fact that he kept it on the racetrack and out of the barriers, because that could have been a sketchy incident for Bagheri.
That's always a positive, keeping it off the barriers.
Right. All right, we got more to come here. We got, another 4 categories still to talk about on the other side of this break. Stay with us. Dave and I will continue the breakdown of the final rounds of the SuperKarts USA Winter Series in just a few moments. You've heard the name VME Kart all winter. It's the hottest new chassis on the circuit, and it's time to get behind the wheel of one yourself. It doesn't matter what series, the VME Kart is running up front. The WK Manufacturers Cup, the SCUSA Winter Series, the Florida Winter Tour, the Challenge of the Americas. VME Kart is on fire. VME Kart USA is the new importer for Vince and Lorenzo Mandarino's creations, and we're ready to take the karting scene by storm. Colin Neal kicked off the 2018 season with 2 big wins on his VME Kart at the WK Manufacturers Cup opener in Daytona. And then, Chase Gardner put the VME Kart on top of the podium at the Rock Cup Challenge of the Americas opener in Phoenix in February. Big wins at big races, and there's much more where that came from. To learn about our chassis and our program, and to see what we're doing in U.S. karting every weekend, follow us on Facebook at VME Kart USA.
Hello, karting fans. This is Chris Wheeler from Bell Racing USA, and you are locked into the EKN Radio Network.
Welcome back to episode number 16 of the EKN Debrief, part of the EKN Radio Network. And again, we welcome all of you who are listening to the live streaming of the EKN Radio Network. We're absolutely thrilled. The only radio station for karting online 24/7, 365. Podcasts, race reports, race results, all the play-by-play. Great stuff happening this year on the EKN Radio Network. We're back at it here. The race report of the SCUSA Winter Series brought to you by Briggs & Stratton. Dave, you know the funny thing is we love watching Masters racing. I love watching the adults get at it and battle. But the Mini Swift and the Micro Swift guys are putting on great shows. And I really like the racecraft we're getting. A little bit of blocking out of some of the drivers. But again, the kids don't normally get as aggressive in terms of getting into the back of each other. Sometimes it's just a little block here and there. Bottom line was Mini Swift, an absolutely fantastic weekend of racing for that category with so many cars, 46 karts in the field, and some great performances as well.
Well, those are one categories. Those are the two categories you never see somebody walk away. And I think a lot of it has to do with they just want to race each other. You know, they're young kids. They just want to race. It's just like you go to like coaching my kids' basketball practice. They don't want to learn things. They just want to play. They just want to play a basketball game. That's all they want to do. So I think that's kind of the thing where they want to win, but they just want to race. And so that's why I don't think you see a lot of blocking. One, because they're not quite there talent wise. So where they're able to do that while still holding the position without losing it or sketching off track or something like that. But I think they just want to race. They just want to pass each other and win.
I agree with that. You know, they probably just haven't been taught to be real dicks on the racetrack yet either. You know what I mean?
Well, there again, that too. I mean, they're kids. They don't think that way.
Well, they come off the track and play together afterwards. Most of the senior guys aren't playing together afterwards, right? The micro and the mini come off, they're high fiving, and then they're running around until the time they have to put the suit back on and go racing.
Well, that's right. You don't want to piss off your friend who has the cool new game or one of the cool new scooters or one of the cool new bikes or something like that. You don't want to piss them off, so because then you won't play with it.
I wonder how many times that's been said. Dude, why didn't you pass him? Well, if I passed him, he wouldn't let me use his hoverboard. That's solid. That is solid. All right, listen, let's get down to brass tacks. Mini Swift. Wow. Jeremy Fletcher. You know, I local guys know the racetrack, of course. Jeremy's had some pretty good runs. Super Nats, we saw him work his way forward as well. And a lot of things, he seems to be that guy, that hard charger that maybe starts further back in the field and works his way forward on a dominant win on let's not worry about working his way forward. Dominant win on Saturday. Just an absolutely great run for Jeremy. He scores the victory. Obviously very popular. Everyone at Ocala Grand Prix at the home circuit were absolutely thrilled. You know, when we announced him to get on top of the podium, big round of applause. You get that dominant run, and David, you know I've said it for many years ad nauseum that if I'm not that impressed. I'm impressed, but not impressed by a guy that starts on pole and wins a race. Good for you. You were able to get the job done. Fletcher has an issue. Someone drives over top of him in the Sunday pre-final. He starts at the tail of a 46 kart grid. I think it was 43 or whatever started. Dude, he passed 10 karts over the first, I want to say 2 or 3 laps. We had a red flag for an incident over in the first hairpin. Everybody was fine, able to get things fired back up. So he benefited by that. Single file, everybody bunches everybody back up. But I'm telling you, I'm getting all excited. I'm going to call Fletcher coming through, you know, where he is every lap, how many karts has he passed, you know, he's got X amount of laps. I start talking about a race up front. When I get back, he's in 10th. I'm like, okay, I'm going to come back, and he's probably going to be 16th. He was like, it might have been 9th. I'm like, what the hell just happened? And we talk about it's hard to teach to a kid. You said it earlier. You can catch someone. You can be fast. You can catch someone. And then when they get there, they run that person's speed. They're not aggressive to make that immediate move. In watching Fletcher come through the field, there was no hesitation. And because I think he knows the racetrack, I know I can pass here, here, and here. He timed it. He made sure that the momentum he had was right everywhere. Dude, he passed. When he got to a kart, he passed the kart. It was the next opportunity, the next overtake, he was there. And it was, I mean, he didn't win. He worked his way up there, but I'm telling you, came up second. An absolutely thrilling race. Carson Morgan ends up getting the win, but It was a fantastic weekend for Fletcher.
Yeah, this is something I think he's done at another racetrack too. It might have been Newcastle. I can't remember where it was, but he's one driver that definitely knows how to pass drivers, and that proved it this weekend.
And I love that because I think that's one of the most important things you can do as a driver. Winning from pole is nice. It's fantastic. Good for you. Maybe you'll be fantastic if you're in a Mercedes in Formula One. But if you want to come from the tail of the field after a tough qualifying session or whatever it may be, you have to be able to pass people. And I was super impressed. It was an absolutely great weekend. We'll give props to Brent Cruz as well. He ends up with the championship. The consistency of 3 podium finishes does it. Carson Morgan actually got a penalty, an issue in the pre-final on Sunday that definitely affected his opportunity to win the championship. But nonetheless, the championship going to Cruz and Nitro Kart. They actually won both championships, Nitro Kart winning both the micro and mini. As we go into micro, dude, it was awesome. It was really a 4 or a 5 kart battle, like a front pack throughout the entire weekend, with just some great drivers in it. Parker DeLong, Ben Mayer was in the battle. Max Garcia was right in there. Danny Dzelski, of course, Caleb Gaffaro was in there as well. Ethan Ayers had a fantastic drive from deep in the field to 4th on Saturday, and then was able to get on the podium on Sunday as well. But there are just some good drivers in this micro class. Maybe too many. Well, there's a couple of guys out there that like to look behind them all the time. I'd like to see that stop because it leads to blocking. But I'll tell you, pretty solid run for the guys in micro.
As I tell my dad, there's nothing wrong with looking back as long as you can continue going forward. But
you look back.
I was just going to say,
there's a reason to look back, and that's the block.
Okay, I never blocked. Anyway.
Yeah, me neither have I. But if you're looking back, it's because you're trying to set the block up. That's a bottom line.
But I think the racing in micro is pretty good because a lot of these kids have been racing together now for 3 to 4 years, starting back in kid karts. So it's good to see these kids developing so well at such a young age.
Yeah, I agree. That's so very true. And we're going to watch. What I always love is we're going to watch these kids, these 7, 8, 9-year-olds. We get a chance to watch them for the next 10 years. You know, as long as they stay in the sport, as we all hope they do, and run some years of senior and continue to run. We'd love to have them keep running. It's going to be fun to watch these guys develop. 206, I was thrilled. I love having the Briggs guys there because I think it's a different feel. If anybody's around watching the event, they get to see really what is the best way to get into the sport. Colin Warren, David, was absolutely amazing again. He was challenged more this weekend than he was at Homestead. Sevi DePinto was right in there. Chris Chamara was here this weekend to battle him. They were all on VLRs for TS Racing. Chamara was real quick. So was DePinto. But Colin Warren still comes away, goes 4 for 4 in the Winter Series to win the championship. MGM got out of their way. They had some issues on track by themselves and with a scoring issue at Homestead. Man, Zach Linsell, real good, 2 podiums for him. So all in all, a great run in senior. Masters class was good racing. MGM brought Joey Miller in, and he really kind of dominated the action on Saturday and got MGM their first SCUSA Winter Tour Series win. But it was the consistency of Eli Yanko, the driver from Canada, who's here with Terry Ventresco, who we've known for many, many years, and the VSR crew. He gets the Sunday victory and gets the championship in the process. We'll give shout-out to Dan Breitenstein, who had a great run, finishing 3rd both days. He finished, I think he finished 3rd behind Mark Julian, who ended up winning at Homestead. But, dude, 206, just good racing. It was fun to watch it because, as you know, it's just that great train strategy. You got to make the move at the right time. You're not quick enough that you're hard on the brakes so you can go deeper on the brakes. It's about setting up that pass.
Well, looking at that, I didn't realize it. I don't think we said that earlier, but it was an American chassis, 1, 2, 3, both days in the Briggs senior class. That's pretty cool.
I didn't think the VLR was made in the U.S. Is it made in the U.S.?
Well, it's an American brand. Yeah, that's true. I guess it's not made in the U.S., but it's an American brand. It's kind of like an Aluminos, I guess, maybe.
There you go. I like that.
Or almost a comp cart type deal where it's designed or based here in the United States. So
I like it, and I agree. It's awesome. It was, and again, I just got to give props to Colin Warren. Absolutely tremendous. All series long. Let's wrap this thing up. We're done for the breakdown. Let's start looking forward because you and I we got work to do over the next month, dude. It's gonna be fun. We're going to wrap things up here with the EKN Trackside Live Race Calendar. This episode brought to you by Franklin Motorsports and Merlin USA. David, we're just about 10 days away from hitting the road, getting back in the air, landing in LAX, grabbing a quick double-double at In-N-Out, and rolling out to Cal Speed Karting. We got Challenge of the Americas, round number 2 coming.
Yeah, we haven't been there with the challenge since 2013 when they held their finale there. So it'll be cool to go back to Cal Speed. It'll be a little bit of a shame to be separated from Shelby, and we'll be she'll be in her timings tower, and we'll be in our little booth for announcing. But overall, it's pretty cool to be there. You know, it's a very obviously popular track in the LA area, so it's nice to go back there. But it's definitely going to be a pretty cool event because obviously they're expecting more entries than what we saw in Phoenix. So we're maybe going to flirt with maybe 100 entries there for this weekend or for that weekend. Yeah.
I think when we did the debrief of the challenge after we were in Phoenix, we talked about that there is a small faction of Rock Cup drivers in Southern California. There's obviously a bunch of drivers in the Rock up in Northern California who may come down as well. We expect more drivers when we head up to Sonoma for round number 3. So yeah, if there's an opportunity to top the 100 mark, and again, a lot of 206 guys as well in Southern California. So hopefully we can get 30 206s onto the racetrack. From there, March 2nd, 3rd, and 4th, we kick off the national season for Superkarts USA competition. David and I heading down to New Orleans, NOLA Motorsports Park. Love that racetrack. You know, David can get a hamburger anywhere, but I get to rock some jambalaya. I get to rock some gumbo. It's Cajun cooking for Rob.
There's a good burger place down by Bourbon Street. So we went there Sunday night, and we might hit there again this year.
Sounds good to me. Then, you know what? We're hooking together having a burger, but we are not together on the March 23rd, 24th, 25th weekend. I head down to Texas for the first round of the Texas Pro Kart Challenge, back to Alan Rudolph's Speed Sport Racing Park. Man, I dug that racetrack. A lot of fun. We capped off Texas Pro Kart Challenge last year. We're going to start it there this year. I'm excited about that. I believe because it's in the school year, and I love what they're doing. It's a 2-day event. We're Saturday, Sunday, I believe. I think we're Saturday, Sunday. Yes. So we practice Saturday, qualifying Saturday night or Saturday afternoon, race on Sunday. I think that'll be great. You, though, David, you're going down to Mooresville.
Race City, USA, baby. Yeah.
That's right.
I think I've been there every year that they've opened, so it's good to go back again. I'll be there twice for the WK Manufacturers Cup Series. So this time in March, and then the finale, I believe, in October. So this weekend it'll restart the Manufacturer Series, which started in Daytona. So we've had a couple of months off with that program, and everybody that follows that series will be back at it again at the end of March.
Not exactly sure how we're going to approach the EKN Live program. We're going to have 2 of them. Obviously, David's going to have Eric Brennan on the mic for the WK Manufacturers Cup. I'll be handling the call for the Texas Pro Kart Challenge. We'll figure it all out, and we'll let you know. We'll have links for you as we continue to do our EKN Trackside Live program. David, that is it, my friend. We've done it. It's a debrief for the SCUSA Winter Series. Bottom line, just an absolutely fantastic event, a fantastic launch to SCUSA's return to Florida. I think that's the key.
Yes, it got off to a great start with Homestead. Followed it up with another stellar event in Ocala, and so now they have basically 9 months, maybe less than that, to start planning for next year's second year.
Yeah, they just happen to have a Pro Tour, a Pro Kart Challenge, and a Supernats to plan for as well.
Yeah,
so
nothing.
A little busy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are done here for this episode of the Debrief. Thank you so much for joining in. On behalf of David Cole, this has been Rob Howden. We're excited. 2018 season is underway. Lots more races to come, lots more podcasts to come. Thank you again for joining us here on the EKN Radio Network.